thank you all for coming to the Bedrock and Salmon Fires community meeting. Tonight we'll be hearing from our incident meteorologist. I'm Joel Brum, Public Information Officer with Northwest Team 12. We'll be hearing this evening from our incident meteorologist, fire operations, our air resource advisor, Lane County Search and Rescue regarding evacuations. We'll also hear some information for those who've been displaced by wildfire in terms of their homeowners insurance and some of those benefits and some more information on that. Two of our agency administrators for the fire, and we'll also hear from one of our incident commanders. There will be an opportunity at the end for you to ask any questions. So I do ask for you to hold questions until the end. So with that, incident meteorologist.
Good evening. My name is Bob Tobin, an incident meteorologist with Team 12. We're going to talk about a little bit of the weather that's going on here. All right, so these are the maximum temperatures. Let's see. These are the maximum temperatures that we've had today, and this is the difference in the temperatures over what we've had the last couple of days. Now, what you guys remember, it was 100 here yesterday, 99, 100. We got some clouds in there. We had a little bit of light rain on the fire today, but very, very little bit, just 100th or so. But you know, look what it did. It cooled things down nicely, down into the lower 80s, which is close to normal for this time of the year. And our relative humidities, oops, how did this go? Relative humidities dropped or climbed up into the mid to upper 30s, which again is also pretty close to normal. And that went up 18 to 23, whoops. I'm not used to this, 18 to 23, 26% across the board, and that was all because we had a little bit of rain come in over us this morning, just a very little bit, barely even raised the dust. Probably didn't even hit at your house, did it? Oh, it did rain at your house. Yeah, probably just enough to, maybe make your windshield a little dirty, huh? Yeah. So through the day today, though, we ended up going back up into the mid 80s, which is down. We're going to stay about at that rate, and I'll show you a picture of that here in a minute. Now, this is the eye in the sky that don't lie. This is a satellite picture. I borrowed that from the University of Washington. They do a pretty good deal here. And we're looking at moisture in the atmosphere right here. We've got a closed low. This is a little bit of model data they put at roughly 20,000 feet. What I'm looking for is areas of low pressure here and areas of high pressure. And then what my job is to try to time how long it's going to take for this stuff to get in here. And I didn't time it very well this morning because I didn't have any rain in the forecast. It actually got in here a little quicker than Bob thought. But what this is doing is it's pumping up this moisture from off the Pacific all the way up into our area here, and it's bringing some rain over our area today, right now even as well. You might have to get this. This is a movie, so you might have to punch the button a little bit to make it go. See if that works. There you go. Okay, so I took this. Can you hit the, can I hit it? There you go. So this is a movie that I took from this afternoon. You can see all this moisture. We're up in here. You can see that moisture came up over the top of us, but we're not getting a whole lot going on. But down in here, can you hit that button one more time for me? You're getting a lot of lightning all the way over in here. They were getting some rain in here. They picked up anywhere from 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of rain down there, which is good, and hopefully we won't get any other fires. But we're up here, and we had those clouds come in, kind of kept us cooled off a little bit, and that was a good thing for us. Okay, that's good. Thank you. All right, now we're back to model data again. This is again from the University of Washington, and again, I told you I'm looking for areas of low pressure, areas of high pressure, and what's going to happen. This thing dropped out of the Gulf of Alaska. I've been following the thing for about 4 or 5 days, and this is the tropical storm Eugene, and tropical storms tend to have a lot of moisture to them. And this thing has been wrapping that moisture up all the way up and around into southwest Oregon, all the way up to Eugene and even further, and that's been pounding northwest California with lightning as well. What's going to happen over the next 24, 36 hours as this low pressure system comes in? The flow pattern is going to kind of do this. It's going to come out of the northwest over northern Oregon and then move off to the northeast over Idaho and Montana. And what's going to happen is the moisture that's been wrapping around this way is going to get pushed over to in this direction here. And that's going to leave us kind of high and dry for the next couple of days. And this is what I'm looking at for next week. And why I'm looking at this is Hurricane Hillary. that's coming up off of, right now it's off Baja, Mexico, and that's bringing in a lot of moisture coming up into this area. But again, look what happens. We get another low pressure system out of the Gulf of Alaska. You get this flow around this way. This moisture that comes around here that's real thick is going to get pushed up, and it looks like it's going to go across southeast Oregon into Idaho and Montana. And our area here east of the Cascades is likely to see high and dry. Now, we might get a little rain out of it, but I'm not looking at a lot of rain that's going to actually be a bit beneficial for us. All right, so this is what I'm looking at. These are two different model sets that I grabbed from two different, through Monday. And here's Lane County, here's Deschutes County, here's Lane County, here's the Cascade Crest. We're in here, and what this is showing here is about 1/100 of an inch between now and Monday. And this one is showing a little bit further west, but pretty much the same. It gives me a little bit more confidence that these guys are kind of in the right track. But you can see where that moisture goes. See how it gets pushed off to the east and northeast of us? These guys are going to get hammered. They have red flag warnings out for lightning over in these areas right now, coming out of Medford and out of Pendleton, Oregon, and they are going to get lit up with lightning, it looks like, over the next couple of days. All right, so what do? I take all this stuff and I put it in what I call a matrix, and I do that to give our operations people, our F-band, and all the people out on the line a heads up of what's going to go on for the next 5 or 6 days. And what I got is a cloud cover across the top, max temperature, precipitation chances, LAL, which is lightning activity level, winds, min humidity, and the Haynes index, which is a stability index. And we color code those. So you just kind of look at it and see what's going on. If it's red, it's bad. If it's green, it's good. Okay, for the last 5 or 6 days when we've been in kind of this little easterly push, these were all red for 3 or 4 days. And we had some pretty active fire behavior going on. But now we've got a little bit more cloud coming in. Temperatures are instead of 100 degrees, they're down in the low 80s. And our relative humidities are down into 30s to 40%, which is where they should be this time of year. August, this is pretty common for us. And then we also have taken out the big strong winds. Now, what we've been seeing on the ridge tops here is that we get gusts of 15 or so just about every day. That's a pretty common occurrence for us around here. Down in the canyons, they're about 3 or 4 miles an hour, and that's mostly where the firefighters are doing all their business in here. So lightning activity level, that's how much chance of thunderstorms in here. 1 means we're not going to have any thunder. Okay, so we got that going for us. So I like seeing these yellows and greens in here. Gives us a little bit of confidence that we can go to work and get some stuff done. End of report. Do you want this?
No. Hi, good evening. My name is Aaron Rowe. I'm one of the operations sections chiefs with Team 12, and my main job is to basically direct the firefighters on what our operations are going to be to try to control this fire. So I'm going to start here with a little bit of history. And so Bob mentioned that we had some pretty big fire activity 3 or 4 days ago. And prior to that fire activity, we took off what Team 13 did, which was another incident management team that preceded us on here, because this fire's been going for a little bit. They were here for 2 weeks, and then we followed them up, and we're about up with our 2 weeks. So while they were here, the other team, and this was probably almost a month ago when this started, they had done some really good job. Or let me back up even further. Initially, this fire started around the Bedrock campground, and sometimes when we're fighting fires, we just can't quite get to them because they're in inaccessible terrain. There's a lot of snags, a lot of things that really make it hard for us to get around the fire because it's really not safe. So they tried their hardest, but that's when that other team came in, Team 13, and then they did some really good preparatory work around much of the fire, and then it was basically time for them to go, and they completed some other things. But roughly when we showed up, and I'm generalizing a lot of things here, but basically when we showed up, we had a lot of burning to do right off the bat. And so we basically completed a lot of burning, starting basically at the top of these hills, bringing them down in some different directions, and basically right now we're feeling really good about where we're at on a large chunk of this fire. However, the other day we had some of that fire activity that Bob talked about there, And as we were bringing fire down the hill, we had some increased activity right around the Clark Creek drainage. And in that Clark Creek drainage, some of that instability Bob talked about and some of the east winds we were getting that day pushed fire basically over the 18 road and south here. And so we kind of had to get back on what our original plan was and come up with a new plan. And so in those new plans, it was starting to threaten the community of Big Fall Creek. So Big Fall Creek, that's our number one priority right now, and we were coming up with a plan to protect that community the best we could. Oregon State Fire Marshals were called and have 4 task force leaders of engines, and so that's basically 20 engines. Doing a bunch of dozer lines around here, sprinklers, miscellaneous chainsaw work, cleaning things up around there. So if that fire was to come down, that place, that community would be better able to handle fire coming there and hopefully wouldn't burn any houses down, kind of a thing, and protect the people that live there. So that's the first thing we did when we had to kind of change directions here. Next thing we did is we tried to go as direct as we could. I'll call it here, and this is and I'm sorry, sometimes I'll use some firefighting terms here, but this is what we call a division break, and basically one side of resources go this side, and the other guy that's in charge of resources goes this way. And we made a division break at an anchor point, which is another place that it's a safe place to start from. And we basically started making direct line all the way here, right on the fire edge. I'll tell about this side here in a minute here, but on this Division Alpha side, we kind of have nomenclatures for each side of the fire, kind of a thing. And so on this Division Alpha side, we got real direct here, but then things started to get, there's some topography challenges in there. And so within the last 24 hours, we have a sprinkler line across Little Falls Creek, because we just couldn't quite get crews and dozers and whatnot down there. So we've got a nice sprinkler line across the creek. And then we tied into a road system, the 710 road system, and we basically got to here. And then the last night we had some other activity that's basically brought fire up here. And so we're all basically direct with our sprinkler line all the way back down to here. But we're having some topography challenges at the moment. This is real-time stuff here I'm talking about, and we're assessing ways we can either be direct or what we call indirect, which we may pick a road out here and then try to basically burn down to the road. So in a lot of places we are direct, and we're all direct back here, but places that are a little bit more challenging in terms of topography and fuels and whatnot, we have to kind of back off because it's not really safe for the firefighters to do there. So when we do these more indirect portions, it just makes it a little bit more tricky, and we're setting some of those up. We've got a bunch of hotshot crews out here prepping some of those lines, getting ready to bring fire from basically the top of the hill down to the bottom of a road, and trying to make this as close as we can, because the last thing we want to do is burn any more private property or burn any more Forest Service grounds. And we're trying to wrap this thing up, but we're just in kind of a tough chunk of an area up here. So we're doing our best here, so that's that part. I'm going to talk about the Division Yankee side, which is we're having a little bit more success on this side. We've basically got some really good line up to one of the road system here, the 170 road, and then from here we've taken dozers and feller bunchers and gone all the way around here, and we've got just a little bit more work to do on this bottom edge, but basically we've been building things all the way downhill. And then on this side, we've got a little bit more, we're prepping some things and getting ready to burn right here to tie it back into this old block that's been here for a while. And then we're going to feel pretty good about what's going on here. So in both of those efforts, we'd really be protecting this community back here, and that's really our number one priority. All of the other areas back here, really we've been patrolling those, still patrolling them. We'll continue to patrol them, but they're really looking pretty good, feeling pretty good about it. Some other things we got going on, we always have to have a backup plan. And so right now we've got some heavy equipment working some of these road systems down here and making some other plans to work these road systems here, basically prepping for if the scenario we're going with now doesn't quite work out the way we want to always have a backup plan. So a lot of work going on. Last I checked, over 1,000 firefighters out there still doing all this hard work, and we're we're getting real close, but we're just not quite there. But we're feeling better about things, and this weather that Bob talked about is really helping us actually right now, because there was a lot less fire behavior today, and we were actually able to go a little bit more direct than we were in days past. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Molly West, and can you hear me on this? Great. Okay, I'm the ARA trainee, the Air Resource Advisor trainee, and so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we have going on for forecasted smoke. And so just starting off on this slide, what you'll see is this is going to be what our predicted daily average air quality index levels were for all of these different locations around the fire. What you'll notice is that it's a pretty wide area. What we have here is both the locations that we're forecasting for both the Bedrock Fire as well as the Lookout Fire just north of us, as smoke from both those fires are really impacting our whole forecast area. The good news is that with these weather conditions that Bob was telling you about, is we've been seeing improvement overall. Some areas are getting a lot better improvement than air quality as others. Oregon State and has released the air quality advisory for Deschutes, Lane, and Klamath counties that has been in effect for the week. It is ending tonight, as they're predicting that air quality is going to improve as well. And so a little bit more specifically to some of these areas, what we're seeing with the northwest winds that Bob was talking about coming in and things moving a little bit back to normal is these areas north and west of the fire are going to see the most improvement. So you see up there, Salem, Detroit Lakes have moved to good air quality. That's what we really love to see. Eugene has stabilized and moderate, with some areas around Eugene moving to good, and we're hoping that through the weekend, Eugene can get even better. Closer to the fires and really in the way where wind is pushing the smoke and it's having some trouble getting out of those areas is McKenzie, Sisters, and Oak Ridge. However, the little bit of good news there is that today they've been in unhealthy and unhealthy for sensitive groups, which is much better than what they were in the last couple days at hazardous and very unhealthy. Then when we kind of move over here, going up 97 from Lapine. Lapine's been faring a little bit better than the areas north of it and having some smoke clearing. They've seen some good air quality overnight, but they've mostly been in moderate. Bend, Prineville are really similar to each other with their air quality. And then Madras, because it's a little bit north of where that smoke's been getting pushed from both the Lookout and the Bedrock fires, it's faring better as well. And then so going from Friday to Saturday, we're kind of seeing a little bit of continuation, but we're seeing these slow improvements, and so we're hoping by the end of the weekend, we're gonna be able to move some of these to better improvements. You can see that McKenzie and Sisters, we predict that by Saturday, those are gonna move into unhealthy for sensitive groups, and hopefully you'll notice a lot cleaner air. If you want a lot more details, as well as links to more information for your local area, and as well as recommended actions to help protect your health, all of our outlooks are available here at the fire.airnow.gov. You can zoom into your area and find the forecast for that area there. You can look at both our daily forecasts. We put them out and publish them around 8 a.m. each day for both the Lookout Fire and the Bedrock Fire, and then you can even go into other areas if you want to check out Northern California or some areas you may be traveling to. You can see all the current outlooks across the U.S. At that website there, as well as grab some links to some more detailed information. And that's all I have for you. Thanks so much for coming out.
Hello, Jason Bowman, Search and Rescue Coordinator for the Lane County Sheriff's Office, and just here to speak briefly on the evacuation levels and our process and what that's going to be looking like over the next couple days. It was Sunday night and into Monday. We had a lot of pretty rapid changes for the community at the top end of Big Fall Creek. They were initially put into a level 1. A few hours later, that was upgraded to a 2, and not much longer after that, it was upgraded to a level 3, where we were asking about 20 properties to leave their homes. And that wasn't a decision we made lightly, but there was just so much quick change to the fire situation with that weather we saw Sunday night. Since then, the team has put in a lot of really good work on the fire, and the weather has cooperated with us quite a bit more. Unfortunately, the danger in that community is still pretty high right now, so we're not at all comfortable changing any of those levels, but at the same time, we don't foresee in the next couple days needing to change anything for the worse either. Everything's probably going to stay like it is, at least for another day or two. We have about 20 properties in level 3 and another 40 to 50 properties in a level 2 evacuation. And so far, we've seen really, really good cooperation from the residents that are impacted. Just about everybody from the level 3 area took it really seriously and left immediately, and that was something we were really grateful for. We know it's difficult for people to leave their homes. It's a difficult decision for us to take to ask them to leave. And now as time drags on and we keep these levels in place longer and longer, it's something that we're aware of, and we're in communication with the folks from Team 12 and from the State Fire Marshal's office several times a day, checking in on what can we do about these levels, when can we let people back in, or do we need to start expanding? And it's something we're keeping a close eye on. We appreciate everybody continuing to respect the evacuations. Those who might be currently under the level 3, if you have specific questions about getting access to your property or what's going on, you can feel free to reach out to us here tonight if you're here, or through our Sheriff's Office call center at 541-682-2055, and we'll be able to work with those affected individuals much more directly. But that is all I have right now. Everything's going to probably stay the same, at least for a couple more days, while the team does some more work to secure the fire where it's close to that community. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Jim Thompson, and I'm with the Oregon Division of Financial Regulation. Actually, it's the Insurance Commissioner's Office, but DFR, Division of Financial Regulation, is our proper name. And I just want to give you a little bit of information about how to kind of deal with a claim situation and maybe avoid some disaster scenarios that are out there. First thing that you really want to do is kind of gather all of your financial documents that you can, get them in a go bag, copies of them just so you've got them, so if you need to go real fast, you've got it ready to go. I'd recommend taking pictures of all the stuff in your house. When you're walking around, you've got your phone with you, just start snapping pictures of everything. That way, if the time comes and you've got to fill out a property inventory for your insurance company, you've got it right there that you can pull up. So I'd recommend getting that, put it on a flash drive, keep that in your go bag to go. Otherwise, if you go down to the Walgreens, print them all up and put them in the bag with you when you go, just so when you turn around and you need to show the insurance company what you've got on your claim, you've got a ready resource to kind of go back and pull that information up so there's no real question about what you might have had. Another thing you want to do is review your coverages with your company. The time to do it is before a fire, of course, because if something's burning, they're not going to change anything. So I'd encourage you to go talk to your agent, make sure you've got the sufficient coverage levels that you think you have or that you need. Talk to your agent, make sure you've got everything, because they're going to be the ones that's going to be able to give you the best information on, getting you the coverage that you want and that you need to get through the situation as best as you possibly can. Another thing to think about is that with the evacuation levels that are out there, level 1, level 2 might not trigger portions of your homeowner's policy that would provide coverage for additional living expenses. Now, additional living expenses are the extra fees that are necessary to pay for staying in a hotel, temporary housing, meals since you don't have a kitchen. Those are the kind of things that additional living expense coverage would cover. But the level 1, level 2 evacuations generally aren't going to trigger that portion of your policy. It's not until it gets to level 3 that becomes applicable. So that's something to keep in mind. And also be aware that your policy deductible might likely come into play with that. So sometimes they're $500, sometimes they're $1,000, sometimes they're a percentage of your overall coverage level. So just be prepared that might come into play if you need to invoke that particular portion of your policy. There's a lot of different portions to your insurance policy. You've got the structure coverage, which is going to cover your home itself, the entire structure. You've got the contents that we were talking about. Talk to your agent again, make sure you've got sufficient contents coverage under there. If you need to up the levels, talk to them about that. Might increase your premium some, but it's going to help out in the long run. If you have a total loss, God forbid, you'd be able to get all of the benefit available to you. Another thing to consider is your insurance policies a lot of times will have internal limits for certain portions of your property. Firearms are one, Currency and coins is another. Antiques and fine arts. So if you've got a lot of those things under those three categories, make sure your agent knows about it, because I've seen claims. I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've seen people that have had their homes burned and have had $15,000 in fine art. They had a $500 internal limit for the fine art, so that's all they got was that amount. So if you've got, like I said, coins, firearms, currency, antiques, arts, those are the ones that we see mainly people kind of losing out of in a situation like that. So that's just another thing to talk to your agent about and make sure you've got, what you're expecting as far as coverage goes. I want to give you our phone number in case you want to reach out. I work for a team of people that deals with insurance claims on a daily basis. Like I said, my job title is consumer advocate. So people call me, send in concerns, complaints, and I try and work with the people in the insurance company to come to a different resolution. So I'm going to give you our phone number. We're happy to take questions from anyone, help out with the situation. We don't have access to your policy, so we can't look up information for you. We can give you generalized information, generalized advice on what to expect, kind of how to navigate through the process, because we do this day in and day out. So if you're ready for it, it's an 888 number, so it's 888-877-4894. And that's going to get you to the team that I work for. We're open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and we're happy to take questions from you, happy to go through scenarios with you, and try and help out as best as we can.
Yeah, I know I just wait till the end.
Oh, go right ahead.
There's a program called FireWise.
Right.
Is there like insurance adjustment down if you belong to a FireWise program and you spent money and you got your property cleaned up?
It's going to depend on the insurance company. The state, our office, doesn't set any of the requirements as far as what a homeowner's policy has or any discounts related to it or anything like that. We just make sure that the companies follow the policies that they file with us. So there very well may be a discount for the FireWise program. So I'd call your company. If they don't know about it, ask them that. And if they don't know what the FireWise is, because even though your company might be located in another state, it doesn't mean they don't have people dedicated to the state of Oregon, because insurance is regulated on a state-by-state basis. So anything that's written in Oregon is specific to Oregon only. So I'd call them and go through that. They may not know it by name, but if you tell them that you've taken these preventative measures, say you've cleaned, so many feet away from your house, or you've cleaned this or that just to kind of alleviate the fire damage, let them know, because that can have a positive impact. You may get a discount, or it may keep them from making the decision to cancel you. Because if they do get indication that there's some concern with your property, they could issue a cancellation or a notice of non-renewal if that's the case. So I guess the main thing is just keep your agent involved with everything. Ask the specific questions. Go down. We recommend people review their policies at least once a year with your agent, just to make sure you're getting what you're expecting. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Molly Julera, and I'm your district ranger on the Middle Fork Ranger District. And I'm also the agency administrator for the Forest Service on this fire. Since the beginning of this fire, we've been, the Forest Service and ODF and Lowell Fire Department were the first ones there on the scene, trying to respond to this fire as quickly and as fast as we could. And unfortunately, we weren't able to stop it at the smallest size. I'll throw out a statistic there. About 98% of the fires we get, we are able to stop at such a small size, you never hear about them. But as we all know from these last 3 years, sometimes we can't do that. And sitting here hearing about smoke and insurance policies and those things, I know that's tough. I know there's other ways we'd rather spend our summer, right? And so I think all these folks that come to help us, it's what we need. We need their help feeding and taking care of those firefighters, getting information to all of you, helping us as a district and forest able to respond to anything else we need to try to carry on some of our other work on the forest. And so I'm really grateful they're here. I think, a lot of places in Fall Creek are really special to a lot of us. And And when we have these fires, we know that it has an impact for a long time on some of those places. So, as we find out more about some of those places in Fall Creek, we'll be sure to get that information to you, and as we know more. I do want to point out a map you don't see up here tonight is the Salmon Fire. That's a fire that started just east of Oak Ridge, was a really big concern close to town. And that's when we were able to get around, and that one is contained 95% now, and it's kind of smoldering in there. And as soon as we safely can in the near future, we'll be opening that area back up to the public. And so, we'll take that win, and I hope you all do too. I think there's people. I talked to some folks, they say there's some tough questions. Well, that's why we're here tonight, to try to answer the questions that we can. There's some questions we might not have the perfect answer to right now. You heard our operations folks talk about some complicated spots and some spots that they're really working hard to get around. I see those firefighters every morning before they head out, and then I see the night crew before they head out at night. They're working out there in this heat. They're working out there. If you're from around here, you know how big the trees are and how steep the ground is. And they're the ones out there with the chainsaws and Pulaskis and hose line and walking that ground and trying to figure out what to do out there. And I really trust their ability to do that. So if you have questions, I'll be around. And I think we're going to have our next agency administrator.
Good evening. My name is Dave Lorenz. I'm the Deputy Agency Administrator for the Oregon Department of Forestry. As Molly said, we were involved in this fire from early on, and as always with ODF, our mission is to try to keep fires, particularly this kind of fire, off from land that we protect, which is private land. We are responsible for initial attack on BLM and county, state lands as well. So that's what we're most interested in. Looking at the map, you can see we weren't fully successful. You can see, the fire squirted out a couple places onto white, which is private land, and the yellow is BLM land. The green is Forest Service land. So the fire squirted out, and when that happens, our next thing then is to try to pinch that down and minimize that footprint on that private land. And that's what we've been doing in conjunction with Team 13, who was here previously, Team 12, the Forest Service, the BLM, Fire Marshal's Office, all of our cooperators. And so that's what we've been doing. That's what we've been working on. And I also, I think, in the community here, I think it's important for you folks to know that you've got some private forest landowners, industrial landowners who really care deeply about this area, and you've got a lot of forest operators who care as well. And they live in your community. You may or may not know them, but they've been contributing. Contributing is the wrong word, but they've been providing a lot of equipment, heavy equipment, to do the critical work that we need to build the lines to hold a fire like this. And so I'm not going to name them off because I would miss some and I'd feel bad about that. But those folks are doing a lot of great work out there for you. So a big thank you to them. So I'll hand this off to our IC.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Bouchard, and I'm the Incident Commander Trainee with Northwest Team 12, responsible for managing the Bedrock Fire and the Salmon Fire. Molly brought up the Salmon Fire. I just want to touch on that real quick. 12 days ago, we were delegated authority by the Willamette National Forest, the Bureau of Land Management, and the Oregon Department of Forestry to manage Bedrock. And the very next day, they called out and asked for our assistance and wanted us to take this Salmon Fire that started right by Oak Ridge. We were able to successfully break away resources, provide leadership, direction, go up and this time of year, to be successful and catch a fire that quick was really good work by those firefighters on the ground. And I really want to highlight that success. Things went really, really well. One other thing, I guess I'll just start with, I want to thank all of you, for hosting us here in town. Things have been great. We're set up just down the road down there off Pleasant Hill. It's It's a great location. Everybody in town has been very cordial, happy to have us around, and I realize the impacts that having this many firefighters in your community can have. I also recognize the impacts that the fire is having on your community. You know, once we got delegated authority to this incident, you know, we established our priorities pretty quick right out of the gate. You know, the very first thing is, on every one of our fires, is providing for firefighter and public safety. After that, the second thing is to protect our communities, followed by, you know, protecting private lands, timber company lands, and then there's a whole bunch of other resources we're assigned to, but those are our big priorities, and that's what we've been doing. You know, really since the start of this incident, you know, the direction we were given by the local agencies is to reduce or minimize the amount of acreage this fire is going to burn. You know, our folks have been working very hard to minimize the impacts to your community, the acres that are burned, both on federal and private land, and try to really wrap this fire up as soon as we can. We've been largely successful. We did have a pretty tough 5 days in a row of, you know, 100+ degree heat and high hains, low humidity, and you guys are definitely very well aware of how difficult the country is out there. The large timber, steep slopes, there's a lot of gravity hazards, and you know, there's a lot of places our firefighters just cannot get into. We have to provide a safe working environment for those folks, and we figured out those locations where we could go to work. You know, with that, you know, I think you heard today from our meteorologists, our operations folks. We also heard from air resource advisors, from the sheriff's department, also local disaster assistance, and then the agencies and us. You know, what I'd like to do now is open things up for questions, and we can get you pointed to the right individual to answer those. Go ahead, sir.
Why is it so difficult to get information up to date? I live about 2 miles, 2.5 miles from the reservoirs at Frontwise, and I went to old school, so you know I'm smart as a whip, but I cannot find a website or anything that tells me what's really up to date. You know, I mean, somebody's getting that information.
Yeah, Joel, you wanna touch on that one?
Yes, sir. We do have a staff of public information officers. We have actual handouts back there that we produce every day that have websites on there. You can go to INCIWeb, which is an incident management. It has all the federal fires, INCI web. And so you can find information on the Bedrock Fire, the Lookout Fire nearby, and all these other fires. We also have a Facebook page for the Bedrock and Salmon fires where we publish the updates and we publish other information about the fire. Our other incident commanders handing you one there, sir. And we have a phone number on there as well as an email number, email address rather. So if you have specific questions that aren't getting answered, by all means, please reach out to us. I've got a staff of public information officers. I will be happy to talk to you and answer any of your questions.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
All right. Lady right here in the back. Nope, that's you.
So I've been getting the lane alerts for a number of years, and now I'm hearing that this is all going to be switched over. Is that going to be discontinued? And they're trying to switch everybody to Evergrid, is that correct?
I'll turn that over to the sheriff's department or perhaps the fire department. You guys have some answers on that one?
So at the lane alert system is run by Lane County Emergency Management, which is separate from the sheriff's office, and unfortunately they don't have a representative here tonight. So I don't have the full answer, but I can tell you internally they've switched providers for the company that helps us send those alerts, and that change happened about a month ago. I don't know for sure if previous enrollments were carried over. I think they were not. So you do have to sign up again. So lanealerts.org, if you go to that website, you can sign up on the new system, and we should be on this new system for quite a while. This isn't going to be we're not next summer going to ask you to sign up on a whole new thing again.
It seems like the amount of information they're requesting is more than previously required, and there are a lot of people concerned about privacy, and I don't know how many times I've been hacked. I mean, how much is absolutely necessary?
So we need ways to contact you, and we know where you're interested in being notified of. The new system does allow you to put in, I want to know about my house, oh, and I want to know about this other location, like where you work or where your kids go to school. It allows you to put in more than one place, but as long as you tell us a phone number or an email how to get a hold of you in at least one place, that's the minimum information that it needs. If you've given us your phone number into that system, yes.
So I switched over.
Yeah.
And as yet I have not been receiving one alert at all.
So the new system is much more targeted. If you are not actually in the evacuation zone, you won't get the message. And that's one of the benefits of this new system. We're trying to get better at being much more targeted so that we're not creating excess concern. We know in years past we've had alerts go out, like last summer for the Cedar Creek fire by Oak Ridge, and we had residents in the McKenzie River Valley getting concerned about what does this mean for them. So we're trying to be as specific and targeted as we can with those evacuation messages. Sure.
Why is the east side, where there is no population, there are no houses, it's so well sealed up, and the west side, where all the residences are coming into play now, is in danger? Why is the east sealed up so well and so good, and yet the west side where we live is under attack?
Yes.
Why was not the west side concentrated on more than the east side?
I can't speak to what happened before my incident management team got here. You know, I do know initially the fire started down in this general direction and it got up and moved this direction. They anchored in, began to anchor and flank, which is what our normal tactics are, and began to encircle the fire. You know, we were very diligently working, had a very clear plan to try to wrap back around. We had fire lines in place all the way around the incident. We got a wind shift, we got that easterly influence, and then we got those very active days which allowed fire to get established again and come back around and threaten the community. I mean, we absolutely recognize the concerns with the community. You know, it's really was about stopping the fire spread, and really that's what we try to do is halt initial fire spread and where it's going in the direction. Sometimes it doesn't exactly work, you know. Wind shift, weather changes, things turn back around. We had to adjust our tactics and come back around and focus more on that side of the fire. We had a very good plan in place. We just got dealt a really tough hand by the really difficult weather.
So what's the plan now? How are you going to stop the holiday from being burned up?
I think Aaron did a pretty good job describing to you guys what he did, you know, what our operations folks are out there working on. You know, this is our point of emphasis right now. All of this stuff over here, all of the stuff in Big Fall Creek, all the stuff on Weyerhaeuser, all the stuff that's over here on Fruit Growers Land, the BLM. This is all of what our focus is. You know, we have 1,000 firefighters on the incident. You know, 15 crews, roughly 50 fire engines, 9 helicopters, and the vast majority of the action that's being taken on the incident is currently over here. 500 plus personnel on this side of the fire, you know, maybe 150 around this other side over here. And,
No seats or no tank?
well, we've been really hampered by smoke for a number of days now. We haven't been able to fly aircraft very much at all, and visibility is really important for those aircraft to fly. It's been a number of days. We've only been able to get up for an hour or two, and one of the challenges with, you know, air tankers and then the seats is that, you know, we get up into that bigger timber, and that stuff does not penetrate the canopy, right? All it does is it just breaks up, doesn't really do anything on the ground. And every time we're utilizing aircraft, whether that's helicopters or fixed wing retardant of some kind, is our actions, we have to be able to get boots on the ground to follow up. You know, we need to get people in there to actually suppress the fire, because those aircraft don't put the fire out. It's the firefighters on the ground that put that fire out. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yes, sir.
Does the level of the reservoirs impact any of this, you know, being able to get fire? Because I know, I mean, Fall Creek is way down.
Fall Creek's pretty low, for sure.
And I don't think Lookout's very full either this year.
We have not had any issues getting the amount of water that we need for any of our firefighting equipment, even though the reservoirs are low. That has not been a concern for us. So, other questions? Yes, sir.
When the Bedrock Fire started, it grew 1,000 acres a day, every day. And none of the other, the Lookout, the Priceboro, and the Salmon fires were all more contained. What is it that this fire grew so fast?
I was not here at the beginning, so I can't speak for that. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into, you know, how a fire spreads and why it spreads so quickly. You know, fuel conditions, how dry it is to start with, where it actually starts, location on the slope, whether it's on a ridge top or it's in a drainage. You know, a lot of times what ends up happening is, you know, fire gets established, you end up with the wind and the slope get in alignment. So the wind is blowing, you know, right up a drainage or right up a steep slope, and, you know, that causes fire behavior growth, you know, causes fire to grow exponentially, right? Once you put those factors into play, and then that's typically how that happens. You know, you've also guys have been in weeks and weeks of drought. It's critically dry out there. You know, we have a measure of the energy release component, which is a measure of how much fuel is available to burn and actually be consumed by the fire. And you guys are at like the max level it's ever been. You know, it's a 97th percentile right now. Very, very difficult fire conditions. And you know, what happened right at the beginning of the Bedrock is, you know, it's kind of everything kind of lined up. You know, there were a lot of different factors in play which led to that large extreme fire behavior and fire growth. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting. You know, our incident management team, Team 12, was actually just here in 2017 for the Jones fire, which was burning right around over in here, and you know, we just burned all the way back through the Jones fire. You know, although I will say that, you know, conditions within those fire scars was modified. You know, typically when a fire comes back into a recent fire scar, you know, there isn't as much heavier fuel on the ground. There aren't as many trees, you know, so it doesn't get up in the canopy. It still burns. It's still going to carry fire. You know, I can't say there is going to be any greater risk from that, you know, but typically for years afterwards, depending on the conditions, you know, fire behavior is modified in those fire scars post-fire. Yes, ma'am.
These maps are of the actual fire.
Yes.
Is there a map superimposed on this or separate that shows where the areas of the 1 and 2 and 3 level evacuation areas are? That's
On the Lane County website.
On the Lane County website.
There's a site called Watch Duty that has
Well, yeah, Watch Duty is an app that you can download for free on your phone. It's a pretty amazing app that's actually tapped into a lot of really great information. You can download that. I will say this, none of the information you find on Watch Duty is official information. It's being pulled from sources. It's not being put out by the government. It's not being put out by the states. They're taking the information that the states and the government provide, and so we, as agencies, cannot guarantee that information you find on Watch Duty is correct.
you compare Watch Duty with Instagram, and they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
So I would assume that the stuff that's on Watch Duty is pretty much what it is.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. We just don't have any control over what goes on to Watch Duty, and we control what goes on to InstaWeb. We control what goes on in all those other locations. I recognize, you know, not just Watch Duty, but there's all kinds of different things out there that people, you know, technology these days, you can find just about anything on the internet. You just always have to question that.
Let's do 3 more questions, Jeff, and then we can do breakout.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So at the beginning, I think you talked about, priority one,
Yeah.
people's lives.
Yep.
Firefighters' well-being. How have you guys done on that? Have there been any injuries to firefighters? Anybody seriously hurt, or is it all on that front gone the way you would hope?
We've actually done fairly well. You've heard about the number of people that we have out there. We have had a number of injuries, none of them serious. A lot of slips, trips, and falls, twisted ankles, some cuts here and there, a vehicle accident, a rollover of a UTV. No serious injuries to any of our firefighters, which is, our number one priority. So, any other questions? Well,
What percentage containment is this fire at this time? 25.
we have a 25% today. And recognize containment is, so containment on the fire, when you look at the map, and you'll be able to come up here and look afterwards, is all the areas that are shown in black along the edge. Those are, what we mean by contained is those areas are secure. We feel very good about that. They're not a threat to the future. All this other stuff that isn't showing in black yet, all has fire line on it, but all of those areas, we have to go in, we have to cut down the snags, we have to mop up everything that's there, we have to hotspot, we have to cold trail, we have to make sure that is not going to escape again before we're going to call that area contained. So that takes quite a bit of time, quite a bit of effort, and certainly in the really heavy fuels you guys have here, it just takes a long time to fully contain a fire where we're comfortable saying it's not going to escape. So.
Quick question, last the Facebook meeting, they said that just 2 structures had burned out. Has anything burned out? Now it's process on private property?
Nothing on private property. Yes.
Thank you all.
Yeah. I think with that, we'll go ahead and we'll hang around. We'll be available to answer questions. Appreciate you all coming, and we'll be here.
Good luck, man.
You bet.